Welcome to Black Tech Broadcast, a series of virtual events to help young Black talents get into the world of tech and succeed. I'm Monica Lee, and I'll be the host for this afternoon. And in today's session, we will discuss the opportunities around a career in tech, with it being split into two. So the first half will be in conversation with Augustina, software technology management graduate at ARM, and Joseph, software engineer graduate at ARM. It's an opportunity to hear from both of these leading Black employees in their respective fields, discussing their personal journeys and also understanding the breadth of roles available at ARM. So let's just get straight into it. I'm going to go to you, Augustina. I have like so many amazing things to literally say about you. But you know what? I'm just going to allow you to introduce yourself because I don't feel like I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do it justice as much as I know you will. So for those that are live with us, please just give them a small intro. We'll get into more information. And don't worry, we're going to really find out what you do. But yes, please intro yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm so happy to be here. My name is Augustina and I am a graduate software technology manager at ARM. I work within the open source software group. I recently graduated with an engineering degree from Warwick University where I focused on electronic engineering, and during that time I really fell in love with learning about machine learning and AI, especially in technological development, looking at different emerging markets and also learning about the Internet of Things and embedded systems. So yeah, that's basically my passion, and I love working at ARM because I get to play around with that whilst also understanding the way in which the semiconductor industry and the wider technology industry works too.
Amazing. Thank you, Augustina. We've also got Joseph on the panel as well. Hello, Joseph. How are you?
Hi there.
All good?
Yeah, great.
So please as well, give an intro, let them know just a bit more about you.
Yeah, so my name is Joseph. I work as a graduate software engineer. I recently graduated from, like Augustina, Warwick University. My interests, and I've studied computer science, so my interests are around computer science, computer architecture. What really interested me in the role was, game design and game design and game development technologies, as well as embedded systems architecture, which is why I'm currently working in ARM, because they work around those kind of technologies. So, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so you both said like a few technical terms, and I'm like, okay, cool. We need to really go into this and dissect it and literally let people know about the opportunities that is available at ARM. But let's just maybe go back to the beginning before university. I'll come to you first, Augustina. How did you get into tech? How did that love and that fire like become ignited?
Well, it's actually funny because I grew up in a family where there was not many people in technology. So my sister, one of them, wanted to be a doctor. And so I wanted to copy her and do everything that she wanted to do. So when she said she wanted to be a GP, I wanted to be a GP. And I just followed that. And I was like, I want to do what she wants to do. And then I discovered health technology very early on in about year 10. And I fell in love with it. I was like, this is so cool. I don't want to be a doctor, but I really want to just experiment with different things and just learn how to use code and programming languages to create things. So I was like, that's really cool. And then I discovered crash test engineering. And I was like, I want to crash cars for a living. So I knew I wanted to work in that tech space and I was determined to get into it. But then I decided to go down a bit more of a general route. So I did mechanical engineering at Warwick for my first year. And I did a couple of electronic modules and realized that I actually do really love learning about tech and learning about hardware. So I decided to switch at the end of my first year to electronic engineering. And from there, I started to learn more about machine learning. Like I said before, I did research in how AI is used in international development, in particular in Ghana for digital health. And I looked at the way it was used in the fintech industry as well. So from then, it just continued to grow. I really loved looking at startups. So I had the opportunity to be mentored by a founder in Sweden. And I had the opportunity to work in a startup as well during my time at university. And then I got exposure to loads of different companies like EY and other places, but I knew that I wanted to kind of go back into the beginning, you know, the semiconductor part where we're building IP and we're looking at how chips are made. And so that's when I realized that, yep, tech is for me. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to enjoy myself and just learn loads of different things in the industry.
Amazing. Amazing. What about you, Joseph? How was your journey? Is it something that you knew from earlier on, or is it something that developed over time?
Yeah, so yeah, my journey is a bit of a weird one because I grew up mostly interested in art and illustration, but then there was also a running interest in computers as well. So most of my friends will know me for like as a kid just drawing all the time. Um, but my dad was into IT a lot. You know, he basically fixed computers and stuff, and I kind of picked up the computer very early. I like to think I was probably like on the internet, I was on the internet really young, like just messing around, like finding cool things. I was a big tinkerer, right? Like that annoying kid that like would break stuff and like open it up and like look what was going inside, even though I didn't know what the heck was going on, right? That was basically me. So I grew up with that interest. At some point, I chose to kind of go more into the computer science route, and then that kind of got propelled by my interest in game development. A friend in primary school actually sent me something about game development. It was like this software called Game Maker, like really old. I don't even know if people use it anymore, but I tried to use it, and I felt blocked by the fact that I couldn't actually write like code. So that led me to learning how to code a little bit. But even then, I didn't really understand it because like I was just young. I was just you're just messing about, right? But then when I got more into it, I decided I'm going to go into university and study computer science, where the whole thing just became like really interesting to me, and I found myself being more interested in like networking. My previous job was actually around game networking technology and improving basically like game performance for people who want low latency in games, right? Like, so like COD, if you're a COD player, right, you need your ping rate to be quite low, right? So that was basically my old job, and then I kind of went into now where I'm working with more really low level things like CPU architecture and stuff, which is what I find really interesting. So yeah.
Lovely. Both of your stories and how it's kind of developed and led into the role that you're in now, it's literally so inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I know many people that's watching the live right now might be thinking, okay, is it something that you just know that you wanted to do? So it's great to see that you've been able to just have experiences to lead you to this point. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty of this. Okay, so Augustina, at the beginning, you mentioned your current role at Arm. Can you like break it down? Like let them know what your role is and further break it down. What does it actually mean?
Yeah, so my role is officially called Software Technology Management Graduate. Essentially, what that means to many people is a product manager, but a product manager that works on technologies that go into the products that we sell. So when we look at the structure of ARM, what ARM does is that we sell IP, intellectual property, to companies that then build chips. So we're just one step below the chip makers. We don't make any chips, but we build the intellectual property. And I try to explain it to people like having an architect that is designing a house or a building. Say if they design a standard building and they could say that they want to license out this specific design to 10 different companies that want to build a house. So they can license it out, and say if they like the people that they've licensed it out to say, okay, well, we want to build the house in a slightly different way and we want to add things to it, then that's essentially how it works. I'm not an architecture genius, but if hopefully that makes sense to people. So what my team does is we work within open source technology. And that means that we work with our partners and our community to build open source tools, which can include security tools, or it can include power management as well, automotive, autonomous driving things for infrastructure that we can then add to our processes. So if you then license our processes, you can then use the open source tools that we've developed in our teams as an addition to that. So that's essentially what my team does. And what I do especially is a lot of requirements gathering, talking to clients, trying to understand what we can build for our teams. Then it's about developing a roadmap and working with engineers and tech leads and project managers internally and externally to make the idea essentially come to life. So it's a lot of teamwork, there's a lot of community building, and I think it's quite different from a typical product management role, because not only are our stakeholders outside of the company, but they're also within the company as well.
Thank you, Augustina. Joseph, you're a software engineer graduate. What is your role?
Yeah, so I'm currently on the rotation program within a team called DSG, or a department called DSG. That's the Development Solutions Group. So we essentially develop solutions that help software developers do what they need to do, right? So for example, I just recently joined one of the teams that is working on a virtual platform, which is like a CPU. If you go on our website, you can see there's like it's called the virtual platform, and it basically is the CPU, but virtualized, like different GPUs that are virtualized so that developers can write to that, because they may not have the actual hardware, right now. It might be coming out like 5 years time, might be coming out to you. So they won't have that, but they need to be able to like plan with what we've got already, if you know what I mean. So that's one thing. But a lot of the solutions we build they're not necessarily customer facing. They're more facing towards developers and even developers within ARM as well. So yeah, that's what I do. And yeah, I think Augustina's explanation of what ARM does is pretty good. Like, but yeah, essentially we we build we make IP, which we license to companies to then build, which is different to, like, for example, Intel, which actually I believe they actually manufacture like CPUs themselves as well, which is not what we do. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Augustina, what would you say are some of the misconceptions about your role?
Well, I think that the way that Joseph and I have described it, you may think that you need to be like super technical and super nerdy to be able to do a role that's in our company, and like my role, for example, but that's not necessarily the case. Yes, I did do an electronic engineering degree, but I realized that I really had a strong interest in understanding the business side and the customer side of technology. So for me, it was about nurturing those skills. And I think that when you have different interests and you have different experiences that you can bring to your role, it does help you to be a more well-rounded person. I think a lot of the time, the stigmatism with technology is that it's that person that's just, typical nerdy, started from when they were like 1 second old and then got into technology. But there are so many different avenues to get into it. For my role specifically, we have people on our team with MBAs. We have people within the wider team, just outside of technology management, but within OSS, that have BA degrees as well. And it's an opportunity for us to have a diverse group of thinkers and a diverse group of engineers and project managers. I think as well, people tend to focus on just the coding aspect, but actually, I don't code in my role. I am very happy to be coding in my role full time, and I genuinely love the communication. So it's definitely not just a place where you just sit and code. It's definitely a place where you can do loads of other things as well.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to put out there as well, please do utilize the chat box and put in some questions in there. Okay, this is an opportunity for your voice to be heard. And I'll try my best to get through as many questions as possible and try and ask the questions that hopefully will get them answered before you even have to type in and put in that button. Thank you for listing the misconceptions about your role. Joseph, what would you say the misconceptions audience may have about your role?
Yeah, so I think maybe maybe because of the amount of jargon I use and stuff, it's like Augustina said, probably that you have to be super technical. But like Augustine said, there are many roles that are not like extremely hands-on. But even within my role, I think the misconception about my role is that like neck beards or something. Like we just sit down like drinking Coke and coding like all day. Well, I mean, we are in lockdown, so I mean, there's a bit of that, but for the most part, I would say I think it's a bit more balanced. There's many meetings. Sometimes we have to present like solutions to groups. We have to interface with other teams and kind of plan together. So it's not always I'm not always sitting down like writing like code like 24/7. So that's yeah for people like that want to have a kind of nice balance in their lives. It's not as bad as it looks. Yeah, it's not as bad as it looks. Yeah.
I like the fact that you mentioned about the Coke because, growing up, I thought, tech is like literally in a dark room with a computer and that is it. Thankfully, I've grown out of that and matured. And I know a lot of people may think that it's just one of those robust jobs or it's just very hard and it's great to just hear both of your ideas and both of your perceptions of how it is. So loving it. Augustine, I'm going to come back to you. How did you find your role? Like, how did you get there?
Okay, so funny story. When I went into my university for the first time and I unpacked my bags, before I left, my brother turned to me and he said, "You should apply to ARM. I think you'd like it." And I kid you not, I completely forgot about it. I was like, okay, like he's just saying a lot. And then I just kept on going through university. And I remember walking past the hallway and I saw a poster about ARM. And I was like, okay, I remember the conversation I had with my brother. And then when I actually Googled ARM and what they did, I realized how much of it aligned to my interests in machine learning, in AI, and in the Internet of Things. So I said, I definitely need to apply. So I remember applying just like really quickly. I was like, I just want to get here. Mm-hmm. And then going to my interview where I sat with my manager and my manager's manager. And I remember just talking to them about my passion for AI and machine learning and international development and how we can build communities around there. And it just felt like a place that I knew I had skills for, but I also knew that it could be nurtured. My interest could be nurtured. I think a lot of the time and a lot of the experiences that I've had before in internships and corporate companies and startups as well is that you're kind of confined to a box. So you have to do, a specific thing. You have to go through a specific program. And actually, I'm the first graduate software technology manager in my company, which has about 9,000 people. Thanks. And so for me, I get to like shape that role. So it's really great how one sentence from my brother kept me going all the way 3-4 years later to now be here. And I was originally an intern last year in September 2019 as well. So when I finished my internship, I was like, I need to come back. And I knew that ARM was going to be the place that I wanted to start my career.
First of all, I just have to say congratulations and shout out to your brother, yeah? I need to have a chat with your brother. Thank you, because this conversation wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be able to see a Black, beautiful woman in that position. So we love to see it. I just wanted to ask a quick thing, like, how did you find that you had the skills to be able to apply? Because I could, sometimes you see a spec and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tackle this? Do I just kind of, gas it up a bit, add in a few extras to just make it work? How did you know?
The thing is, And this is for any job. When you're applying, when you see a job application and you see the title and you say, yeah, I want that, and then you see the description and you're just like, I don't know, apply for it anyway. Because that's what I did. I actually applied to ARM for engineering roles as well, but I knew that my heart wasn't in it. So when I saw this role and I saw that it was a product management role, and I knew that it would be a role that I can work with open source, I was like, if I don't have the other things, that's okay. Like, we're going to learn it and we're going to get there. But also it had to be a bit of like self-confidence in knowing that I'm great. I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to do something, and I can fail 100 times, but the 101st time I will get it. So it was kind of like, I'm not going to say I knew that I had the skills, because there were some skills that I didn't actually have that were on the CV, on the job description. But I knew that I had enough as a baseline, and I knew that I had the desire to grow the skills. And I think that is the most important thing.
Thank you. Very inspirational. You see, you're all locked in listening, yeah? Okay, just make sure you're taking some tips from Augustina. I'm going to go for one more question with you, Joseph. Like, we can talk for time, but obviously time is against us. And I want to get through a few questions that the audience have sent through as well. So we're going to try use the last 5 minutes. So please do send them through. We'll try as much. Joseph, I wanted to know, now that you're working in tech, what are the surprising roles that are attractive to you that you might not have heard about before you worked in the sector?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say I didn't hear about them, but then when I learned about them, I found out that they weren't how I thought they were. And the best example of that is the support roles, right? So I actually thought support was like you're just like answering calls all day, like writing emails, like responding to like questions and stuff. And it is that, but the support roles in ARM are actually very hands-on, as in, because you're interfacing with customers that have some really complex problems to solve, right? And you have to be able to troubleshoot the hardware. You've got to be able to troubleshoot this, troubleshoot that. And I think it's a really great job for just like all around learning and getting like into the like getting right into the dirt, I guess, of hardware, I guess. So yeah, I think yeah, support was a surprising one for me for sure. And I think it's because I think with when you hear support, I've heard support from other companies, and the role usually is like answering calls and saying hi, and then sending this little page to somebody to give them that help. And yeah, so I thought that's what it was, but yeah, it's very different, very different. So yeah.
And leading from that, there's a question from the audience. Are there maybe any other exciting roles within tech or the organization you think students aren't aware of and they may actually be interested in it? I know, putting you on the spot there.
Good question. Oh, wow. Do you know what, actually? There are two that come to mind. If you want a more business side, I think that people should really have a look into product marketing. Product marketing is a role that I think not many people really know about. And it's very interesting because you still have the technical knowledge while still being able to apply marketing and even a bit of sales to it. It's not a role that a lot of people have, especially as a graduate level, but I know that there are graduate positions there. A slightly similar role, but with a bit more technical coding aspect, is an evangelist role. So I know that a lot of tech companies have evangelist roles, so AI evangelist or cloud evangelist. And that is a mixture of community, it's a mixture of working in technology, working on documentation. And so it's a really good all-rounder. The second role is a role that I actually really like the look of, which is solutions engineering. So it's very similar to product management, but actually it's looking more at individual needs and formulating a solution based on business needs that you can basically project to your stakeholders, and you can present it to external stakeholders, internal stakeholders as well. And a lot of companies also have opportunities to do graduate solutions engineering as well. So I would say those two are ones that I think grads should definitely look out for.
Amazing. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that, Joseph?
Yeah, I was actually going to say the evangelist role. So like in the evangelist role, you actually meet with a lot of people. There's a role that I believe is around education. So you're actually providing educational materials as well to maybe like even schools as well, to help them learn about tech, right? And and that is quite hands-on because you have to know um, uh, about software, but then you're also like working with a lot of people, maybe I think probably eight secondary school children, students. So yeah, that's a very interesting role, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got another question for you, Joseph. How easy was it to get the graduate role, and what was the process like?
Ah. Oh, right. So I I would it wasn't okay. So I applied quite a few times. Okay. Um and so I wouldn't say it was super easy. However, um over time, as you're doing many interviews, you kind of learn what you need to learn, right? You learn what you need to learn, and if you're in your spare time always learning, then you can always tailor what you research and stuff to what's expected to be known from you, if you know what I mean. So that's what happened over time, right? It took me quite a while. Like I applied probably like more than 3 times, I think. But like um one thing I would say is what really helped was having something to talk about, like projects, right? So my biggest advice to people, I always say to like anyone that wants to get into tech is make sure you're like, if you're trying to get into software, my what I'm doing, right? Make sure you're doing like projects on the side, like just like get a GitHub account. That's GitHub. Um, start making projects and put them on your GitHub, and let people know that you're not just doing this for like you actually do this in your spare time. This is something that you enjoy doing. You actually have a love for technology. So like I remember like um, you know when I decided I wanted to get on, I just started doing projects after project after project, just getting into the nitty gritty of the role and trying to understand stuff, so that by the time I came to the interview, they were asking me questions, and I just like, you know, I knew, I knew what to say. And then when they asked me, "What do you do? What's this project that you did? Explain this to us in detail." You could just go on forever because like it's your project, right? You can just keep talking forever. Like, so yeah, biggest thing is I would say make sure you're just doing projects like, and you're developing a genuine interest. Yeah.
Love that. And I think we've got time for one more question. There's one specifically for you, Augustina.
Oh, cool.
Let's get this question going. So, what is it like being a project manager as a reasonably recent graduate? Are you in charge of more experienced staff? So it's 2 in 1.
So one of the misconceptions I actually have in my role is that I am a project manager. I'm not a project manager. We have some similarities in some ways, but when the word manager is used in the context of my role, it's about managing a product, not necessarily managing a team. So I work alongside my team, but I manage a specific technology in order to make sure that we have the adequate roadmaps, that we all know what we're doing, that we're on the same page, and also to be the external facing representation, so that if anyone else in the company wants to kind of talk to us about our technology, then they can come to me or the tech lead. If we collaborate with partners, then we can talk to them. And as a technology manager, my role would be liaising with our partners as well. So there's a lot of that. It's not about people managing. There are some roles such as engineering manager, which looks at people managing. But for me, I'm more interested in the technology itself. So that's basically what I manage.
Okay, Great. Thank you so much, Joseph and Augustina. It is now 4:30. I couldn't believe how the time has flown by so quickly. It has been an interesting conversation, and I'm hoping everyone that's locked in and that was there from the beginning got a lot of tips, got a lot of knowledge, and is writing info in that notebook, in your notes, in your phone, because honestly, being able to be in the presence of both of you to just have this opportunity to get as much info is legit everything. So thank you so much. I'm so sorry, there was so many questions, but we have a second session that we're going to go into next, and hopefully you can maybe transfer those questions over if it can work. But if not, please just let them know, maybe your socials or LinkedIn. I'm not sure how it works professionally, but just in case they want to follow up or maybe want to ask questions in the future, or just follow your journey, to be fair, because yeah, you lot are the leaders of tomorrow. That's what it is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we're going to go into the second session now. Yes, we are here. For those that might have just arrived now and wasn't here from the beginning, my name is Monica Lee. I am your host. I want to say a special shout out to Hype Collective and the guest list for putting this all together and creating these workshops. This is only series 1. We've got 3 more to go. So make sure you come back every Thursday. Don't run off, 4 p.m. same time. But in this session, we're going to be hearing from senior Black talent in tech, busting some myths about careers in their respective fields. We'll showcase some of the different roles and paths within the industry so you can really understand the opportunities. So on this panel, we have got Cecile Peters from JP Morgan, and we also got Alex Fafiga. If I pronounce your name wrong, come true and tell me how to do it, yeah? Because that's one thing I don't play around with. So if I pronounce it correctly, yay, kudos to me. But yes, so let's go straight into it. Cecile Peters, how are you doing? Both of you, are you okay? No one's not talking to me.
Yeah,
Hi.
hey Monica, how you doing?
I'm good. You okay?
Yeah.
Where you at, Alex? You with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm letting it flow now. I'm letting you flow. No, it's for Fago, but you got it there. You got it right. So yeah.
Amazing. So yes, we want to talk a lot more about your journey, also just understanding the opportunities that are available within tech. You know, when you hear coding, computer, like, you know, mentioned in the first sessions, Joe, there's a lot of misconceptions that Joe and Augustina spoke about. But before we get into that and delve into the nitty gritty of the conversation, Cecile Peters, please let them know who you are, what you do. Just, sell it to them.
Okay.
You're
Hi.
doing big things.
Yeah. So hi, it's Cecil Peters. I work for. That's all right. It's good. I work for JP Morgan. I've got a number of roles. I've got kind of a portfolio role. I have a role as the head of Agile delivery for data protection technology, which is a software engineering field. I also co-lead within cybersecurity because that's the department I sit within. I co-lead our stream of device diversity and inclusion called Advancing Black Pathways. And that's kind of my passion. So what I do there is we work internally to generate value and benefit both for the Black tech resources within JP Morgan, but also externally into the wider community, primarily US. JP Morgan's an American bank. So I do those two things. And on top of that, I look at other controls and things that need to be done within cybersecurity.
Great, thank you. And Alex, please let them know who you are and what you do.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Ortega. I run a design and technology studio called Community. I've been running it for 8 years. My own community is kind of, I don't like titles, but the titles I have for myself is what you would call a director of creative technology. That essentially kind of means the term creative technology kind of stemmed from the advertising world, where you had this silly notion of that you're either technical or you're either creative. And I don't personally believe in that concept. I think for me, it's more like code as a part of my creative medium and a creative tool. So I've kind of been this individual for numbers of years who also designs and writes code. So yeah, so Community's it's been here for the last 8 years. And yeah, we've done a lot of amazing work for interesting clients.
So I'm just going to kick it off with you because we're here already. We're vibing. So you said that you started Kamuzi 8 years ago. So would you say around uni? Did you start at uni or just after uni?
I was like 18. So we were, like I always say that we were broke. And to be honest, I knew nothing about tech. My co-founder, Richard, was studying multimedia technology at Brunel. It's now called digital design. And he was trying to code, but his coding game went all that. It was kind of dead still. But somebody put us on to like WordPress. Like WordPress, I don't know if everyone's familiar with WordPress. It's a content management system, allows you to make websites and other stuff with it. And someone put us onto WordPress, and it was like, yeah, WordPress is the future, or like we should get into the WordPress bag and like make websites. So it was started off from making websites. Anybody that had money would make a website. Like I didn't really know much about this whole world. There's a whole tech industry. There are like design studios or product development studios that do all of this stuff. We had no idea. It was literally just man's broke, I need peas, let's make websites. And for us, what we were getting paid to make a website, and we were just like, yeah, we're killing it. And then over time, I began to understand more and more about, wow, there's this whole world, and you can kind of like just get ahead of it or get involved in it. And so Kamuzi's focus, or a lot of the sort of attention has come from the pillars of like, we focus a lot on emerging technologies. So a lot of the new technologies, you see a lot of our projects have been AI related, or we are trying to do stuff around how we could use technology in society. So we've been working a lot with local government in terms of using technology to improve the lives of others. For example, we worked with Southwark Council on a 30 days healthy habits program. So that's basically, you use this app, and then it's currently being developed, and every day you get a new task in order to improve your lifestyle. So it could be about today's date night, do something fun, or brush your teeth and meditate, or that type of stuff. So yeah, our work is quite sort of creative, bringing that element of creativity and technology together. That's kind of, that's the vision behind what we do.
I love it. Thank you so much for giving a real breakdown. Okay, I'm liking this. If you're hiring, let me know, okay? Just putting it out there. So Cecil, what we wanted to kind of get down to is what is your role? Because you have mentioned that you're the head of Agile delivery for data protection. You also co-lead for the DNI. Also, you're the executor director as well. So what is your role? What does it look like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, great question. So I guess I have a number of Scrum Masters and Agile, we call them Agile leads, and each Agile lead has multiple software developments. So at the management level, myself and my peers, we set strategy in terms of products that we should be building and how soon we should be releasing them. My Scrum Masters work with their development teams, and their feature teams. So there's a product owner or product manager, as Augustina explained earlier. We've also got some software engineering grads, as you know, sort of thing that Joe does in our teams, as well as fully experienced developers. And so a feature team will be made up of that group of people, and they'll build the products or the modules that create the products that we release. And our tools go to the software development community within JP Morgan. So just to help kind of contextualize that, JP Morgan globally has 250,000 employees. 50,000 of those are in tech. So a large number of those are software engineers and developers. We create tools that enable those engineers to protect their data, which means instead of having to know about encryption and cryptography, we give them tools that mean that they can do something which is called calling a method, which just says protect that data. So they don't have to know all the back end. They just can say protect that data, and the data gets encrypted or protected. And if they say unprotect that data, then it becomes readable or made available to be read. So that's our team trying to do the sort of thing that makes it easier to be a developer.
And how did you get into your role? What was your journey?
Yeah, so my journey is a long one. I think I'm a lot older than probably everybody on the panel. But I began life as a school kid. I'd go into WH Smith's, which is near where I lived, which was in Ealing back in the day. They used to have a computer set up on the floor, and at lunchtime you could stand there and just code it. Now, we couldn't afford computer games. I wasn't allowed to have a computer or computer games. We couldn't afford it. So I'd stand in W. Smithson lunchtime and after school, code games up and just see them run. And it'd probably be the game would run and then the bus would be due, but at least I'd done it. So when I was, I must have been about 16, my mum bought me my first computer. Didn't buy me any games. So she told me afterwards, I didn't buy you any games because I knew that you'd write your own, which is what I did. I had to, because otherwise I had no entertainment. I left school at 18. I really messed up my A-levels. And I had to get a job because, you know, I had to bring money into the house if I was going to live there. I think a lot of people understand that. I got a job at NatWest Bank in their computer center, and I wanted to be a programmer. I was desperate to be a programmer, but it took me 3 attempts before they said I got high enough score in the test to be a programmer. But I did it. I was resilient, a bit like Joe saying, you know, you tried 3 times to get into the ARM grad program, right? You have to be resilient. You have to keep trying. So I did that. I became a programmer, became a really good programmer, really good. Then I left and went on to another bank and learned a bit about project management. Then I left there and went on, started an internet company because the internet was the thing back in those days. Became quite good at that, but didn't know how to sell. So I joined a consultancy to learn how to sell, got good at selling internet technologies. And then I came back and joined another bank. And then I've had a career of working for banks, running large scale programs. I was at Credit Suisse and I was running their cybersecurity program, which is massive. And the person that was head of cybersecurity came to JP Morgan and said, come with me, we've got some stuff to do at JP Morgan. So I got the role through network, and that's what happens as you build your career. Hopefully you get more opportunities to build that network and work on that network, and people will look for you and sponsor you and advocate for you.
Absolutely love that. I just love the way that you explain how you continue to upskill yourself and also adapt to the environment and what is changing. And as we all know, that is one of the main pillars of success, like being able to just work your way through. Thank you so much for explaining that journey. Alex, so when I approached you, you know, when we shouted you to speak at this event, you said that you might not be the best person as you didn't feel like you had made it in tech yet, which, so what I want to know, what do you define as tech? Like,
No. So I think I got to clarify. It wasn't made in tech. It was more like, you know, giving advice on how people can jump into tech. And I was like, I'm not sure if I could give that, because I think for me, I kind of came it from a do-it-yourself type of way. Like I was able, like also like what Cecil mentioned about being able to set up an internet company but not being able to sell. It was kind of like coming up from a do-it-yourself culture, where it was just like one of the key things we said we were going to do is learn how to sell. So so for me, my whole notion has been, I could tell people how to code, but in terms of like entering the tech space, I couldn't, because I feel like I've always had this bubble of working with companies from a consultant perspective. So you're coming in to fix a problem, but you're never there for a long period of time. So I always felt, and also I kind of run a business. So I thought maybe my perspective might be, I don't know, like I wouldn't want to glamorize stuff in it and make people feel like, yeah, setting up a business is the easiest thing ever. Woohoo, look at me, I'm so cool, and that type of stuff in it. So for me, it was just like, I don't know, just trying to find where to come in and share and how I can share best. So rather than that, yeah, I would say that's, yeah.
I love that. You know, I can imagine that a lot of people can definitely resonate when it comes to titles, and when you know you're good at something, you can deliver. Titles can become a bit complicated, but you work in tech and you're doing phenomenal. So please continue to push that out there, okay? Also, I wanted to kind of add on to that as well. How has it been as a Black man working in tech? How's it kind of shaped your experience, especially as, like you've mentioned, you've the one that's kind of honed in on what you're doing. You created your space and your community. How was that for you to push through?
I wanted to hear Cecil's first, in it, because that would be inspiring. Because obviously he's obviously eradicated a lot of barriers for me, and he's obviously gone through stuff where there was no social media. So I think if you see it, the company was built off social media. So community was built off that. It was very simple for us to code stuff, put that on the internet, stuff would go viral, and people would hit us up. Like, that's exactly how the company started. Initially, what happened at first is we didn't understand how to operate, so we kind of was code switching in a way. So my English was clean. I got a Sky News interview with me, yeah, where I'm talking about AI, and my English is so immaculate. I'm like saying stuff that people are asking me from ends, like, yo, bro, what's going on? Are you all right? And people didn't really understand at that time that I was very nervous. It was just very new for me. It's just all of the stuff is just very new. So I think, and maybe not knowing like where other Black people you could speak to about stuff, just telling you, look, don't worry, son, you've got this, just keep going. So I think we spent a lot of time having to figure things out. I'm 6'4", I'm not a small guy. So even that, like, I know I got an intimidated presence already. And I think I was trying to code switch so much or trying to fit into this box that I think one day I was like, fam, I can't do it, man. I have to basically just be me. And obviously I got locks, I've got piercings, I've got silver tooth, all of those things that my grandma would say to me is not the way you want to have a successful career in life, right? But obviously coming from running a business where we are essentially trying to work with companies to, I don't know, a lot of companies that see themselves as boring, see technology as this tool that they can be a bit cooler or a bit more engaging or reach to a new audience. So I think me owning myself and that being sort of emitted through the company, a lot of people buy into that. And that's kind of been, I think, a key thing to our success. It's not only just been like, the work has been good, because I think we do a lot of really good pieces of work, but it was also the elements of just us as the people who started the business in terms of like just bringing those energies and bringing those truthfulness. Now that the business is growing, one of the things I'm constantly thinking about is how do you maintain that culture that the founders of a business creates? Because especially when you run a consultancy, I always say this is that you can set up a company, have a name, but essentially the clients are buying you. Cecil talked about that network, and we knew we had no financial capital. So the biggest strategy we said was going to have social capital, but we had to like try to build this authentic business, this authentic brand. And now it's just about trying to bring in people who also have those authentic brand and those energy that we think is important to the business. So I'm kind of like, the next stage of my life is learning how to build a culture and sort of maintain that culture for a long period of time.
Thank you so much for sharing, Alex. And the same question to you, Cecil. Would love to know more about your experience as a Black man in the sector, and has your identity helped or hindered you navigating this space?
So I think this is a really important question. And Alex, your answer was inspiring. You don't lose sight of, you're talking to people that want to do what you've done. I'd say, if I'm honest, there are two stages to life right now. There's pre-George Floyd and post-George Floyd. Pre-George Floyd, we were all really trying to make it, doing our best, right? Post-George Floyd, there are now enough allies who are willing to hear what the problems are in the community and to support us to take action, right? So there was a report this week by Reuters talking about the perspective of Black people in financial services, whether they feel like they have a fair opportunity, whether they feel they get paid the same. It was a classic report. They interviewed many of the financial services organizations. And the fact that report happened is a great thing. It's a great thing. The answers weren't good, but the fact it happened is great. On a personal note, my journey has been really interesting. I've had some great sponsors. I've had people that have stood up for me, have created a path for me. They didn't look like me. They were white male typically. But they created a path for me. They coached me, they guided me, they trained me. They helped me to dress in a way that was appropriate for the business I was trying to do. So talking about, being from the ends and being a certain way, that works in some situations, but in a different situation at a different time, you had to assimilate to get where you needed to get to. And I've had to do that too. I feel post George Floyd, we have the opportunity now to really express ourselves as we are. People are willing to accept that diversity is good and difference is valued. And I think it's a great time to be a young person coming into tech, because some of the barriers that we would have faced when I came through, you'll start to see people like me in positions of influence that will mean those barriers don't affect you as much as they'd affected you prior to those incidents. So I think this is a good time to come into tech. I think this is definitely any industry. It's a good time now to be coming into it because there's enough people listening.
I think I just wanted to add on to Cecil's point about assimilation, and I feel like that's probably one of the maybe why I mentioned the social media generation or the do-it-yourself, because it was kind of like, obviously there's all these startup books and everybody's saying be an entrepreneur, and then it was like, all right, cool, F every rule in the book, and I don't want to assimilate. But I know that I'm maybe coming up from this generation, I had the opportunity to do that, which maybe people before me didn't have the opportunity to assimilate. It was kind of, you had to, the workplace wasn't accommodating that, you know. I remember having an interview once for like a position at a big 4 firm once, and they were telling me to cut off my beard, cut off my hair, do everything to fit the role. And I remember I did do it to go to the interview and that. And I went into the interview and I saw my man there with a beard, and I thought, rah, like, and then I realized that, okay, maybe, and that's when I kind of said, all right, cool, I'm not assimilating no more, but I would, so that was, very interesting.
It's definitely, there are experiences where there are different rules that have been applied in the past for people of color. I had to take a test 3 times to become a programmer. 2 times. My colleague, a friend of mine, another black guy, had to take it 3 times. But people that weren't black didn't have to take the test at all. So we've seen this is going back a long time ago, right? This is in the 90s, but these things happened, and it wasn't by accident. But hopefully, not even hopefully, I know for a fact that things are changing. You know, the fact we've got Augustina and Joe, the next generation coming through. You know, the fact we're having this conversation, things are much, much better and healthier. Grab the tech world. That's what I say. Grab it. Make it your own.
Thank you. The time is going so quickly. I legit could literally hear both of your experience, because it's so inspiring. And I know a lot of people will be able to either understand, relate, or if not, at least have an insight on how it is to be Black working in tech, especially with your experience, Cecil and Alex, both ranging from different eras, but being able to come together in the same time, and be able to just kind of grab in this knowledge. So thank you so much. I think I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to go into the audience. So Cecil, so we know that the world of tech is changing so quickly. All right. So 10 years ago, half of these roles didn't exist. With spaces, didn't exist. So which spaces will see big growth over the next few years, and why? So is there any prediction that you can make? Is there anything that you think you can kind of advise those that want to get into tech to maybe get a head start in looking into XYZ?
Yeah, I think the 3 that stand to mind, one was already mentioned by Augustina, which is AI and ML. Artificial intelligence is everywhere. And we need to be at the heart of that as well. As a community, we need to be driving the data that educates the models that make the AI algorithms do certain things, so that they are created without bias or with less bias, right? So we need to be at the heart of AI and ML, which means you need to be doing maths and STEM subjects if you can. If you go to university, do math and STEM. If you're going straight into a career, try to find some AI roles and get into management in those roles. Quantum computing. If you haven't heard about quantum computing, I'd say read up on quantum. So the world of computing is going to change massively. And currently we took a binary states. Things are either on or off, 2 states. Quantum, you've got multi-states at any time. So you can have multiple different versions of something happening at the same time with quantum computing. It's going to potentially reduce the speed to do certain processes infinitesimally. It'll be so much quicker. It's a big issue for me, cybersecurity, because we have cryptographic keys, computers. And typically, if you wanted to crack a code, over a period of time, if you have long enough, you can crack a code. But some of the keys that we have today will take you a lifetime to crack. Quantum computing, it could be hours. So the world is definitely changing. So AI, crypto, blockchain, of course, everyone's looking at, I've got my Bitcoin and doing this and that. Blockchain, I think the technology will be around, not necessarily Bitcoin as the underarching currency, but blockchain as a technology, I think, is an interesting thing. And that's something I'd encourage people to get involved in. But it's all about, finding a path. There's lots of jobs in technology that aren't necessarily technical. So you should also think about that too. You can be creative, you can be management, you can do all sorts of things.
Right. Thank you. I've got a question for you as well. Are there any particular Agile project management certifications that your organization prefer? That's the question.
No, none that there's none that we like all of them and none of them. So I joined the organisation without any Agile certifications, but I was a known entity, and the thing that I was good at is getting things done. So if you come in and you want certificate, we do encourage certifications and professional qualifications, but there's nothing that says you must have. If anybody says you must have this certification to get a job, you probably don't want that job, because they're not interested in you. You know, they're not interested in what you can bring. They're interested in ticking the box.
Great, thank you. And there's another question. How important do you think people and company culture, so I'm just trying to phrase this. So how important do you think that the people and the company culture for your professional, personal, okay, yeah. So how important is it to be a part of the people and company culture for your professional and personal development? I just had to rephrase it a bit. I hope that the way I'm posing the question, we'll get the right answer from someone that just put that into the box. And
Shall I
that
go
could
first?
be for both of you.
I'll go first, then Alex, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So you need your network and you need your community, I'd say. So within JP Morgan, we have something called business resource groups. So they're like affinity groups. So there's BOLD, which is the Black Organization for Leadership Development. So anybody can join. You can be Black or you can be an ally of that community. You can join. We have Pride, which is the LGBTQ. There's Women on the Move, which is a women's progressive movement, which is a community that I joined as an ally. You could join all or none or one. You know, it doesn't matter. But just belonging to communities creates more empathy with the communities that you belong to. So for me, it's really important that, you know, if I want people to support me, then I'm going to support them. And I think that'll create a network for you and gives you scope to understand people that you might not spend time with, right? One of the challenges we have with senior management in banks is that they don't necessarily mix with all types of people. So these business resource groups enable them to mix with different people. And that's an important thing when it comes to promotion, pay rise, undoing stereotypes.
Thank
Alex.
you. And Alex.
So I think in the context of myself, it was more why the culture is quite important is I'm trying to build a company that hopefully cannot have the issues that maybe other companies necessarily have, right? I want it to be a space where, you know, regardless of your gender, your sexual orientation, your race, your religion, everything that you hold true to your identity, that you will be able to feel valued in a space. That's one of the first important parts, because I know that the reason why I probably never worked for a company was because I felt like I possibly wasn't going to be accommodated. Maybe now people accommodate me now because there's a reputation attached to myself, but back then I didn't feel that. So I felt very uncomfortable maybe taking opportunities. The second thing as well is that, you know, I run a business is in the business of creativity. Creativity is the intellectual capital that comes from you, comes from within, it comes from how you see the world. One of the things about design, technology in general, is that it tends to be very homogenous cultures, which means a lot of the products, services, and things that come out tend to be the same, or they tend to cause harm. You know, Cecil talked about AI and bias in AI and machine learning. That's a conversation for another day, but you know, what tends to happen is most of the people who work in those spaces tend to be white, tend to be male, and that causes these products and services that cause the same results and again and again. And so trying to create a culture which allows that sort of diversity of thought, of people, of culture, of perspectives, in my opinion, would lead to a more creative and fruitful and purposeful output with the things we do. So I think you know, is it important for professional development? I'm guessing in certain organizations, like a JP Morgan, I think it is. If I was in JP Morgan, I'm trying to be friends with everyone, fam. You know, I'm trying to navigate to the top. I'm trying to get that bread. But in terms of creating this company and creating community and growing it to the next step, I think it's important just to be able to achieve the intended vision of the company.
Lovely. And I think we've got, oh no, maybe just one more, squeeze in one more question. Alex, I think you'll be great at this. Is there any advice that you can give to a first year student to make them be prepared for just opportunities?
I think obviously if you're in uni is the best time to experiment. I think that was kind of like some of the things we were saying to ourselves, is that we didn't have a mortgage. None of us had a girlfriend at the time. And we just didn't have stuff that made me in a way that was kind of like, bruh, I can't do this thing. I got to be committed to something, or I'm stressing about things. It was just stressing about, I got to get this exam done, or I got to do this essay. And that was like the perfect time for us to experiment. I kind of missed those times because we just experimented. We just had fun. I think it was like one summer where we just had fun and we just built whatever we wanted to build, watching stuff. And I think it's like the first step for me is just experimenting. Tech is so broad. There's so much roles. There's so much things. I think it's like spending time to understand what the different roles is, spending time to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. I'm a maker. I like making stuff. So I know that for me, I exist in the realms of designing and writing code. You know, I've learned different programming languages over the time. Sometimes I start a project and learn the programming language during that project, but that's what I know I'm good at. I know I'm probably not good at managing, so I will never try to see. So I know I wouldn't want to be a project manager or like try to manage stuff. I rather want to be stuck in stressing about why is this thing not working and spend the rest of my week doing that. That's what I like. So it's like also finding out yourself, figuring out what you feel like your sort of strengths and weaknesses are, and just kind of having fun. Having fun before the real world tells you, bruh, you got bills to pay, man. So that's my best advice I'm going to say if you're in first year.
Yeah.
We're trying to increase retiring age as well, you know. So please enjoy uni as much as you can. But
Monica, can I before you can I just add something to what Alex said? Yes, my son's first year student as well. You really have to enjoy it. He's working far too hard. I also say that Q2, spring and summer, where internships for year two get advertised. Go onto those websites, look for an internship, look for an opportunity, and sign up and try to get on one of those programs, because that will look good on your CV when you finish your degree, right? So this spring, summer is when those internships get advertised, so make sure you do it. We typically don't know, so we miss it. So, okay.
See some crucial tips there. First and foremost, I just have to say a special thank you to you both for literally just dropping knowledge and just being able to be on this call and just be able to just like give as much knowledge as you've been given. So honestly, thank you so much to everyone that logged in and was a part of the conversation, writing notes and all of that jazz. I hope it was just as useful and you were able to take away some great tips. Thank you for attending Black Tech Broadcast first virtual series. We'll be back next week, Thursday at 4 p.m, same time, same place. And the conversation will be all about prepared to be inspired. So hint, hint, be prepared to really be inspired, okay? So thank you so much. I am Monica Lee. I've been your host for this afternoon, and I'm going to be starting to do some research now about tech. I can't lie. I didn't realize there were so many different roles available. I need to get that money up. But no, thank you so much. Take care.